So maybe Mark and Raghu, maybe you could just take 30 seconds or so and just introduce yourselves just for the audience, please.
Mark Davison. I'm the CIO for Delek US. We're a downstream oil and gas company, refining as well as convenience stores.
And I'm Raghu Narayan. I've been with Aramco Services about 3.5 years. Prior to that, almost 4 decades in the downstream petrochemical process technology and refining technology development. And just very quickly, my background looks like what you might see in a trash compactor, a bunch of junk all crammed together.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to ask the first question. I know I won't keep you past the 30-minute time frame. You guys get to ask the next question. But the first question I know is related to cybersecurity. So what we find is that whenever we think about IT versus OT, cybersecurity is always, first and foremost on the minds of people in terms of organizational design. And with all of this talk about new technologies and Internet of Things, maybe each of you, if you could just provide some perspective in terms of how do you think are you making progress overcoming the hurdles with cybersecurity in terms of your organizational design? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, I'll go first. Simply from the fact that, as most of you probably in this room know, that on August 15th, 2012, there was a significant breach in the Aramco intranet. And I'll be honest with you, the company is still recovering from that. And so that has really framed the company's process of adapting and adopting technology because it was a significant event. And so things are coming very slowly for us. But that's why we are on a major discovery process of what's out there and what might work, given the unique circumstances, not only what we encountered, but also what we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Okay. How about you, Carrie?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I think I've told my here. Organizationally, so you saw our chart. Manufacturing cybersecurity actually does fall within my organization, and with that, we keep the kind of special requirements for manufacturing that the rest of the enterprise is not as concerned with in terms of security and reliability. So organizationally, we partner very closely with the enterprise IT organization, which has overall accountability in the RACI example. So and you know what? As we started up our manufacturing cybersecurity organization about 10 years ago, the first thing we did was build a RACI chart, like Mike described, to talk about where there was shared responsibility, et cetera. But so overall enterprise has accountability for securing here, and then we are in charge of protecting the manufacturing layers with a really good partnership.
Okay, good. Mike, any comments?
My background is process engineering. I became an advocate of IT, OT in my later career. So I look at this much along the same lines as process safety. Layers of protection. So I believe security is not a singular entity. It's layers of protection, and it's layers of organizational design and technology associated with that technology to achieve the level of security we need in real-time systems. So shared accountability across multiple layers of protection.
Okay. How about you, Mark?
From a cybersecurity standpoint, IT kind of led it because we also have convenience stores. So obviously in the retail side, that's a first target. So we partner with the manufacturing, but they look for us to kind of help them, lead them down that path. Because they don't have the time to really investigate a lot of the issues around cybersecurity that we do. So,
okay. Any questions from the audience? Surely somebody's got a burning question about organizational design. Going once, going twice. Okay, here's another one. So how about...
Hold on, Kevin. Hold on,
oh,
Peter.
we got one? my eyesight's not very good.
Kevin Wilhelm with Eli Lilly. I'm used to thinking about IT organizationally. I know what that looks like, how those words are used. I'm not as used to thinking about OT from an organizational standpoint. I can think of it as a set of technologies. Could you comment around the use of the word OT and the use of that word in terms of organizations, and whether you see organizations actually called that, or we're just applying, terms to things like engineering that I'm more used to?
Automation, engineering, what are you seeing out there? OT?
The term OT is rather new, okay, not as common as IT, and even the terminology that I use, manufacturing IT, is a substitute for the words OT. I tend to use that because manufacturing encompasses something that is very tangible that you're used to. So manufacturing IT is the manufacturing IT is fundamentally the identification of new technologies that can be applied to the engineering operations domain, the deployment of, the maintenance of it, and the sunset of that. And so an organization needs to address, and I put that in my presentation, it needs to address all of those attributes to be effective against the mission. So it's not just finding a new IT solution and throwing it out there. It's the life cycle management. It's the whole life cycle of the technology used in the manufacturing domain. That's what I define as OT. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the same, just to comment quickly, that there's no one in my manufacturing organizations, the two refiners, have any idea what you say OT. It's process engineering, engineering management, and it's really whoever has control of the DCS. And I think that's who we relate to then, who's in charge of the DCS. And to me, that's the closest thing to what they call IT. Other than that, we consult with them to help them with other issues.
Okay. Any other questions? Paul, just let me know if somebody's got their hand up and I can't see it. Okay, so I've got a question. So this could be for any one of the panelists. In terms of your organizations, what do you see as the biggest factors in impeding alignment across your groups, and whether that's down at the electrical instrumentation level, or that's the automation engineering, the manufacturing IT, or the shared services group? What are some of the biggest obstacles that are preventing alignment that you can see today?
I'll take that. We can talk about shared priorities, and reliability is important here, reliability is important there. It doesn't always mean the same thing to everybody. And so that's where you do end up having to sometimes splinter off and have a separate organization that can address specifically what someone needs. If you look at IT in general, I would say one of the main drivers ends up being low cost to serve, lowest unit cost, and when you get into the manufacturing space, the need for security and reliability trumps that. And so I would say the times we most often have conflicts is when we don't have complete agreement on those shared priorities.
Any other comments?
I think one of the comments for us is capacity. I think everybody wants to do a lot of different things, so there's always a capacity issue. There's only so many resources to go around. So I think, again, building that strong relationship in the business to make a priority on what's most important, because usually what happens is everybody has a capacity issue, but nobody accepts that they got a capacity issue. So I think helping to drive the fact that there's only so much each of us can do, let's make sure that we're working on the most important things. And to me, that's always a challenge.
I think for Aramco, at least, they've designated one point of contact for the whole IT, OT design, and in an early stage of that. And so we're certainly going to encounter some people relationships building to make it effective. And that is going to be the significant challenge to overcome.
Okay, another question?
Yes, hi, it's Jeffrey Thornton, BASF. My question surrounds issue resolvement. How do you resolve issues and track issues? Traditionally, issues for IT would go through a help desk of some sort. And since you have a cooperation with IT OT, are you tracking OT issues through a help desk that users are calling and you coordinate those calls with the IT department?
I can take that if you want. We do have one overall problem management solution, which we're in the process of upgrading, and it's leading everyone to lots of excitement. But indeed, that is the primary tool that if people call the help desk and they work their way through different scripts, they will determine if it needs to go to a peer IT, if it's functional, if it goes to engineering, it's MES related, et cetera. And in fact, even if you call our help desk, one of the first options when you listen is, if this is a chemical plant emergency, press a certain number, and then you will be very quickly routed to someone that can handle that most immediately.
And that's 7x24 support from your help desk?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We do have one help desk that they call. Obviously, if it's some kind of a functionality in the DCS, then it goes through the asset management system. You know, they're usually submitting a work order and getting someone out to work on something, but traditionally, if it's something that has to do with the communications or handhelds or something like that, they go through one help desk.
One of the things, Carrie, that you said in your presentation, or maybe it was before, you had talked about the timing of an organizational design project, and you started off talking about big SAP uplift projects. So the question to the panelists is, ultimately, when is the right time to do an organizational uplift project?
I'll finish what I was sharing with Peter before we were talking, because I think we were talking a little bit about how long would it take to do an organizational design project like that. And I said, well, in elapsed time, I wouldn't recommend you do it while you're doing a global SAP uplift, which is when we did the organization design. But at the same time, sometimes you need those kind of earthquake changing things that cause you to make that change. You know, it's rare that someone just wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'm going to shake everything up here. And so we saw successes that were coming through that project and saw what we could become and saw how we could evolve. The actual design process was exceedingly painful because, as I pointed on the top of our slide, we had these 5 functional leaders that sit below that executive steering team. Each of those leaders was charged with a major geography or a major phase of that SAP project. And so to get the attention of people, pretty tricky.
My comment is sort of related to your question, but not from an IT/OT perspective. But back in 2011, the then CEO of Saudi Aramco, Khalid Al-Fallah, threw down a challenge to the entire organization and termed the whole process the Accelerated Transformation Program, that Saudi Aramco was going to be an integrated global company. And he threw down the vision for that by the end of that decade, this decade, 2020, laid out a vision. And so I think, I think the point is that I don't think there's any good time. I think, like you said, Carrie, you sense what's going on in your organization, and you have to have a visionary leader who sees what the situation is and says, here, go get it. And we heard it yesterday at the Exxon, do things differently or think differently. And I don't know whether there's a good time to it or just the right time for it.
Mike?
I've taken a slightly different tactic. Those that know me know I can be a little devious on this. One of the tactics, without a defining event, like a security breach or an SAP project, how do you motivate people to continue to evaluate this? One of my tactics is to use ISO 9000. For those who are in manufacturing, many of us are compliant or conforming to ISO 9000, if not literally in principle. Section 4.2 of ISO 9000 fundamentally is management responsibility. And organizational design, or effective organizational design, is part of management accountability. So in those cases where we don't have a defining event, I use the ISO 9000 certification process and its frequency of refresh as the vehicle to at least take a look at where you are and is that design effective or efficient based on your certified mission, let's say. So that's one technique, absent a defining event. And no management out there is willing to lose their ISO 9000 certification because they didn't comply with at least assessing section 4.2.
Okay, Mark, did you have any comments?
No, I think we probably move to the next question, probably save
Okay.
time. So.
Right, so we're almost out of time, but I do have one question. It seems like a major complication that happens today is organizations grow and organizations shrink through divestitures and acquisitions. So any experience or any thoughts that you can share with the audience?
It's a defining event.
That's right.
Very much a defining
And
event.
it's very stressful, and I'd have to emphasize that one of the problems, one of the fears out there is during a change of ownership is whose name is in the box and do I still have a job? And fundamentally, do not go through an organizational design by going to Microsoft, dropping down one of those org chart things and just filling in the box, because that's a course of disaster. So go through a structured analysis like we've described here and do it very thoughtfully and look at it as an opportunity to improve, not a fearful event, I guess. So.
You know, one of the comments is as well, I think this is really important. I was in research and development for 15 years and had the same challenge. You start with the business first. You know, what is the customer expectations of what you're trying to deliver? So you need to look at the organization that you're supporting, the customers who you're supporting, and then make your design attributable to that. And so a lot of different models will work, but I think it's very important to go back and say, why am I here? And build your design on that premise.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking the panelists and industry leaders.